Hello and good afternoon. This is Ishan Isaac, and I welcome you in Zishan on Air Unedited. Let's get to some very important news that happened yesterday around 1:45 a.m. Uh, that was the time in Middle East and in Israel when uh, the very much anticipated retaliation, or I would say the attack from Iran, which in fact they've already announced 72 hours before this attack to all their allies. That's what their foreign minister has, in fact, shared with the world media. And let me share that particular, uh, I would say, information as well. Well, in fact, not this one, but this particular uh, information where, as you can see, Iran told allies about attack 72 hours before it happened. And before I move on, let me just quickly also go live with our viewers and everyone at Instagram. So I welcome all of you. This is Ishan Isaac, and good afternoon. So as we begin this today's Zishan on air unedited program, starting with the key news that happened around 1:45 a.m. Time at night in Israel. That's when about 1 million people had to take shelter in their bomb shelters. Uh, those are specific areas where all the residents, when the sirens go off, they have to take refuge in there. And this was the long anticipated attack or retaliation in terms of the original attack on April 1st at Iran Syrian embassy, where seven of their key commanders and one of the key commander of their Revolutionary Guards, or IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps, when he was assassinated. And then there were six more, and then there are some reports they say there were 13. And this was the attack by Israel. They never denied or confirmed it, but Iran said that it was Israel, and they said that we're going to retaliate on this. This is how the real world works. I mean, you cannot go instigate your neighbors and then think that, oh, why are they attacking us back? So this is where the Netanyahu government is actually asking for another wider conflict and for a war in the Middle East. So April 1st, Israel, they attacked the Syrian embassy of Iran, the Iranian Syrian embassy in Syria. So it's not Syrian embassy. And then in retaliation, they said that we will attack back. And this is where I'm sharing this information where the Iranian foreign minister said that Iran told allies about 72 hours before it happened. That's their foreign minister is saying. Now, I don't belong to Iran, and let's have full disclosure. I'm going to make sure that in Zishan on air unedited version of using our social media power and platform, even the traditional media is also now under pressure because a lot of people are listening to social media, getting their news, watching social media, and this is how at least the pressure is also on traditional media to report what's factual and what's truthful. So the Iran foreign minister said, quote, about 72 hours prior to our operations, we informed our friends and neighbors in the region that Iran's response against Israel was certain, legitimate, and irrevocable. Unquote, he says. He also says that Iran informed the US that its attacks against Israel will be, quote, limited, unquote, and for self defense during a meeting with foreign ambassadors. So this is very important. Now we're going to see a lot of warmongers, and especially in the US as well. And one of them is this guy. Remember this guy? And he is a US senator. And GOP, Republican lawmakers demand US retaliate against Iran over attack on Israel. Pushes aid package, quote, long past time for Iran to pay, unquote. This is Republican lawmakers in the Congress, and also the US senator, as you can see that they are actually now bomb, bomb, bomb Iran, that kind of philosophy, which obviously is absolutely uncalled for. And we've got to make sure that sane and calmer voices are going to be heard by our politicians, and especially those who are elected officials. Uh, One thing that I would share here also is how um, the U.S. administration, although Biden met with the NSA advisors and CIA director, and then obviously Blinken, the Secretary of State, was there, and he has actually said that U.S. is not going to become part of any retaliation from Israel as a response to Iran's attack. Although Iran said, "quote," and I'm paraphrasing it, they deem that this matter has been concluded, unquote. So this is where we have to make sure that our role should be to make sure that we continue to share truthful and factual news and information, and continue to put pressure as peace advocates, as those who are for peace and as pro peace citizens, because we do not want to see our country get themselves into a Middle Eastern war, or in another war, or into this wider conflict that Benjamin Netanyahu's government is trying to do whatever it takes to continue this war conflict. And that's the only way Benjamin Netanyahu can be out of prison, because he's facing some very, I would say, uh, important charges, and very, very focused charges on corruption by their own justice system, whatever they have in Israel. So the only way he can be out of jail if he can remain prime minister for a day, a week, what have you. And just about 1 or 2 weeks ago, it has been reported over 100,000 Israelis, they actually protested for peace, and also for Benjamin Netanyahu to resign and call for elections. And U.S. government has also said that openly, and Senator Chuck Schumer has also said it. But let's not be naive. There are also some Democrats, and they are actually saying some stuff which I would just share. So here is Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. I've met her as well, but I haven't met her after this statement. And she put this out there yesterday at 6:20 p.m., April 13th. And she basically said Iran is a terrorist nation. They have just launched a disproportionate terrorist attack against our ally Israel. The free world and the United States will stand against this terrorist nation and the tyranny that it promotes. Now, someone needs to go and ask her, and when I get a chance, I will certainly ask Congresswoman as well, that Congresswoman, why are you trying to become a warmonger? Or, in fact, she's not. I mean, she is now actually instigating and turning public against Iran as well. Yes, they could not be our friends, let's put it that way, according to the US government, but Iranian government or whatever they're doing, we've got to make sure that we live in a world where there are other parties as well. We cannot have everyone in the world just going to be friends with the US policy, right? So this is how the real world works. When you do something, there would be a retaliation. And that's exactly what has happened here. And we've got to make sure that we stay focused, we stay neutral, and we stay balanced in terms of our approach, and don't become a party to just one party in the Middle East. And that's why I'm glad to hear that President Biden has actually said that and needs to stay truth to his word. And no one, I repeat, no one should go without congressional approval to bomb another country. Now, we all know who are against Iraq war, and many of the lawmakers, they actually voted for Iraq war. And those Democrats who actually were against Iraq war as well, this is the same thing. We cannot say now, since if the US administration and they belong to the Democratic Party, then we should forget our values, we should forget our principles. I don't think anyone can be a true Democrat or a liberal or a progressive person or someone who would like to call themselves as progressives, who are also for pro-war. Wars are horrible, they are terrible, and we need to make sure that there is no way that there would be any kind of catalyst or acting as a catalyst where we continue to push the entire region into war, and then it's very easy to start wars and very difficult to end it. So it's incumbent upon all of us to continue to advocate for peace. Now, in terms of some of the other activities I would like to share, Biden said to tell PM that US won't support Iran counter attack as Israel weighs response, because they said that, the situation has escalated. Let's not forget, April 1st, that's when Israel attacked the Iranian embassy right there in Syria, in Damascus. And in some reports, 7 members of their commanders of Revolutionary Guard, they were assassinated, killed. And then there were a few more, in some reports, 13 people. And when you attack a consulate or when you attack an embassy, that's like you attack a sovereign nation. And this was the very first time that Iran sent all these 200 to 300 drones, as reported, and even some ballistic missiles, what have you. And this was just, I would say, a very deliberate and a very calculated approach, where the defense installations, and there was some Air Force base, as reported in the media, which was targeted. And which, in fact, we don't want to see any kind of innocent human life lost anywhere, Palestinians or even Israeli citizens or even Iranians. So we've got to make sure that if you are actually for humanity, then we will continue to make sure and continue to put pressure on our elected officials. And President Biden has actually said that no, US will not become part of any kind of counterattack from Israel, or this counter retaliation because of the Israeli attack on the Iranian embassy on April 1st. So US will not become part of this. So I'm glad that our US administration and people in Washington, D.C., and especially President Biden has said that. And we need to make sure that we hold our elected officials accountable, because this is how world wars start. If US become part of this counterattack with Israel, then we are actually are participating in the beginning of a World War III. And let's not make any mistake. So very interesting. Another thing that I would say, when these 200 to 300 drones were launched by Iran toward Israel, and they were hit in different cities and in some remote areas as well, and some Air Force base. Jordan's Air Force basically were shooting down Iranian drones as well in airspace. So this is very concerning because Jordan is one of those countries who basically, at the end of the day, also say that they are rooting for Palestine. And in fact, this whole region was part of Jordan. In fact, it was the country was Jordan, where Palestine also was there, and Palestinians were living. There are still many refugees and Palestinians living in Jordan. So Jordan actually is playing a double game here, as being reported, because they actually shot down Iranian drones. And some obviously call them the king of Jordan, and even the queen, and you will hear some very nice videos about humanity and all of that. But based on some of their actions, this is what they're doing. So it's hypocritical on Jordan's part, but that's who they are, King Abdullah of Jordan. So residents in several cities in the northern part of the country, say near Syria and central southeastern, heard heavy aerial activity, and they have also said that. So that they shot down the Iranian drones. And then obviously the UK and the US and all these the US fleet, the aircraft carrier, they also participated in shooting down many drones. And obviously Iran, as their foreign minister I've just reported earlier, they've already said that we alerted our allies and even told U.S. that would be limited action in terms of the counter retaliation that Iran would do. Here is this map, as you can see. All these flights, United Airlines and other carriers, were affected by the airspace closure. Israel and Jordan closed airspace as Iran launched a drone strike on Israel, according to U.S. officials. And Iran has said that it would retaliate against Israel for an airstrike on the Iranian consulate in Damascus, which they did. So it was no surprise there. And anyone in the U.S., especially in as elected official, and they continue to basically ask for war, or they say that no, let's go bomb Iran. We already bombed Iraq. We, meaning people in Washington D.C., obviously. I shouldn't even say we, because hundreds and thousands and millions of Americans protested against the Iraq war, and that was basically fought in the name of fighting for peace and finding those weapons of mass destruction, WMDs, and became weapon of mass deception that was used against Americans. So absolutely uncalled for. And this is where all those who are against Iraq basically is a huge country, but imagine Iran is 4 times larger, bigger than Iraq. So it would be a mess if US gets involved in another war in the Middle East, and that would be disastrous, not only for humanity, but also in terms of US reputation. In fact, what the US should be doing at this time to restore some damaged, not some, I would say completely damaged reputation, but at least it will restore some US reputation by announcing right away about the Palestinian statehood, about Palestine, that Palestine should be recognized as a state right away. And that is how US can restore some of its reputation. And speaking of restoring the reputation, you can see here the European nations. There are many European nations. They are actually recognizing Israel or getting close to recognizing Israel, because this is where the PM of Spain, Sanchez, he is actually spearheading this effort and initiating this whole initiative about recognizing Palestine. And Malta, Ireland, Slovenia, Norway, and recently, just a day or two ago, Norway has also said that they're very close in terms of recognizing Palestine. I think it's about time. Enough is enough. It's been 75 years of this brutal occupation. It is an occupation. And let's not make any mistake in terms of, oh, it's anti-Semitism. It's not. When you criticize even your own friends, if they want to commit suicide, if you are truly a friend, you would actually tell your friend, hey, don't jump off the cliff or don't commit suicide. So if you are really a true friend of Israel or Israelis, then let's not equate Zionism with anti-Semitism. If you are anti-Zionist, which is a good thing, but even our president has said before he was the U.S. president that he's a Zionist, and if he continues to say that, that's very disturbing, I would say. So are more European nations finally moving to recognize Palestine statehood? Yes, and this is where you can Google this as well, and you will see how Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez will meet Ireland newly appointed leader Simon Harris in Dublin on Friday, which he met, and it's now already been announced. Both Spain and Ireland have in recent weeks confirmed that they will recognize a Palestinian state. So I think U.S. should be leading. U.S. should be leading this cause as so-called leader of the free world, if that's what we truly believe in. Sometimes feels like you're leader of the enslaved world, because you cannot be free, you cannot be a leader, you cannot be a human if, according to the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, under oath, with his testimony, already told in the hearings that 25,000, please listen to this carefully, 25,000 women and children have been killed in this war or genocide, I would say genocide in Gaza by the state of Israel, by Netanyahu's government. And he is the one who is the prime minister of Israel. So obviously, the state of Israel is basically to be blamed. And this is exactly what has happened. So 25,000. Initially, even myself and many uh, in the media, what they have reported or what we learned, that it was only 14,000, which is obviously one too many. If one human life or one innocent life is killed, it's like killing the entire humanity. That's even the worst in the holy books, and especially in the holy book Quran. So we got to make sure that what is going on is this where this is the beginning of the World War III, and that's why it's incumbent upon each one of us, whatever role and capacity that you're in. We've got to make sure we hold these elected officials accountable, and those who are in public service or deal with public, that they need to speak truthfully and ask them these questions, because that's how the misinformation, lies, propaganda, and all this nonsense is being fed not only to uh, average day Americans. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry is basically not following and paying attention and listening and understanding the conflict or the history. And once they hear information like this one, I'll put it again on the screen by a congresswoman. This is a very disturbing statement. This is a very irresponsible statement that right off the back she is saying that, and this is how they try to grease the wheels and present their case to people that, hey, let's bomb Iran now. So Republicans are also in this mess, and Democrats too. And very few Democrats, they have the spine to actually speak up and stand with humanity and stand on the right side of history and stand with humanity. Now, what I'm going to share with you is also interesting information which every American should be aware of. And that has to do with the lobby and the information that is out there, and we all have access to it. But unfortunately, some people don't know this, or they don't follow news closely. So this is one website, obviously The Intercept, very credible website. They do a lot of investigative journalism, and what they're saying is that Biden is bankrolling Israel's war amid growing financial hardship at home, and this is where President Joe Biden issued two supplemental funding requests. The first, primarily to support Israel's war on Gaza and Ukraine's war against Russia, and it became the 95 billion National Security Act, which the Senate passed in February. This week, Biden urged House leadership to pass the bill as soon as possible. So you can basically look at this information as well, and I will make sure that we also share this with everyone, and I'll put it on social media under comment section on Facebook, and this is out there. Unfortunate, but this is how the Israeli lobby, APAC, and let's make no mistake that APAC is openly supporting both Republicans and Democrats, and they need to register themselves as a foreign entity, and they don't. Because remember, what is APAC? They used to be, until the 50s and 60s, their name was World Zionist Organization. And then Zionist name obviously has a very interesting connotation to it. Some people consider it outright negative word, and some are very proud of it, just like our president when he was the candidate. And I hope he doesn't say, as the president of the United States of America again, that he's still a Zionist, because he is representing all of us. And Zionism, if you go back, read history, it's in fact an ideology and philosophy which even many Jews do not subscribe to Zionism. And many Jews and Jews for Peace and many organizations and many of my Jewish friends as well, they actually are against Zionism. So, being against Zionism, Jews, are they also anti-Semitic? So obviously they name them as self-hating Jews, what have you. So they are also under a lot of pressure, and they have been protesting as well. So what is going on in terms of the pro-Israel recipients? Let's share that as well. Unfortunately, we are not paying attention, and all the information is at our fingertips, thanks to the internet and thanks to the Open Secrecy Act, also the Freedom of Information, and also to our process in the elections, where we know who is getting funds and who is getting funded from who, right? Which is basically how we find out that who is the topmost recipient, pro-Israel recipient. Well, I'm sure no one should be surprised when U.S. Senator back then, Joe Biden, he has always been the topmost recipient of Israeli lobby, and he is our president now. And he received 5.7 million as a senator. Even Robert Menendez, he's a senator from New Jersey, came number two, and even Hillary Clinton was beaten by Robert Menendez, and Hillary came at number three, 2.3. Then you can see the list, and Joe Lieberman is there, and then Charles Schumer, Chuck Schumer is there, John McCain, who passed away, and then guess who? We live in Texas, Ted Cruz. He's also there in top 10. So 1.4 million. So you can go to opensecrets.org and you will find this information. And if you basically change the data and scroll down to House candidates, then you can see who is the number one or top 10. Well, you will see. And you will see all these different senators, Democrat, Republican, they're all there. Eric Cantor. By the way, House Speaker Mike Johnson is also a recipient of APAC money, as one of the biggest recipient of APAC money. And you can see anyone here. As we were talking about Sheila, Congressman, well, her name is there too. Everyone is there. Sheila Jackson Lee, right here, 29,000. And I'm sure this information, depending on what was the cutoff, but some reports have also suggested that President Biden, as a candidate when he was running for president in 2020, and when he was the senator, as I showed you, over 5 million he received as a senator. No one received even close to it. So the second one who came number two, was in fact half. He received over 2 million or close to 2.5 million. But when he was running as for the presidency of the United States of America and as the senator, according to the reports, over $11 million of APAC money and pro-Israeli funds that they have received. So is it surprising to us that why our elected officials are so concerned about Middle East and so concerned about a country in the midst of this whole wider conflict? Who is surprised? At least I'm not surprised. But this is where, at the end of the day, each one of you and each one of us has a role to play. We owe it to humanity. We owe it to our children. We owe it to our future generations, to our children and grandchildren, because this is where our political system is broken. And all these elected officials who basically have been given the power by us, by we the people, and they are the ones who will be sending our kids, your kids, and our neighbors and our neighbors' neighbors, and as you can expand, right, each neighborhood and then city and what have you, our states, to harm's way, to these illegitimate, illegal wars. And this is not something that we should take it for granted. And this is our responsibility. This is our calling if we actually are for peace. And peace means we've got to make sure that whatever it takes to make sure that our elected officials are being held accountable, and they are the ones who are responsible for over 35,000 Palestinians who are dead because they did not do enough to stop this genocide. And even every day people are getting killed. And if you cannot do this, then how can we trust that every other infrastructure project and all this money that is being sent to Ukraine and even to Palestine, that money could have been spent right here in the United States of America? We need funding for education. We need funding for our infrastructure. We need funding for healthcare. We need funding for our elderly. We need funding for Social Security. We need funding for so many other programs that even if you're not Democrat, let's say you're independent or Republican, even you would agree with that. Yes, these are some of the funds that we need to invest and spend right here in United States of America. So this is a bipartisan issue. And unfortunately, Republicans, they are now going to continue to make this noise, bomb, bomb, and bomb Iran. And some Democrats, and many of them, they are also pushing this envelope because the pro-Israeli lobby, and remember, I should say pro-Zionist lobby, they are the ones who are funding our politicians, our elected officials. And how they work very simply. They will go to candidates, they will say that, hey, we want you to be aware of some of our issues. We will give you a trip to Tel Aviv, come to Israel, we'll show you, see, we are a democracy. You know, you're not a democracy. How can you be a democracy when you're also keeping people under oppression and then claim that you're a democracy? South Africa used to claim themselves a democracy, but were they really a democratic country, which was also went through apartheid? So we all know what happened to South Africa, and the entire world blocked them. And they said, enough is enough. You cannot be a democratic country if you are subjugating people into humiliation and keeping them oppressed and then claim that you're a democracy. No, you're not. You can say that you're a democracy, but no one is believing you. That's why the European nations, including the PM of Sanchez, and now Norway and Malta and Slovenia and many others, they are now joining this effort that, yes, we will recognize Palestine. So it's high time, it's about time that the United States of America need to take that leadership role as the leader of the free world and become a neutral party to this entire conflict and this 75-year-old conflict. And if we are not doing that, and if we are not taking that leadership role, then let's not listen to this word from any elected official who say that we are the leader of the free world. No, you cannot claim that you're leader of the free world. You're not. You cannot be. Words have meanings to it. And when you say these outlandish and very confusing words without any being unhinged, without even understanding what's at stake, you are actually deceiving public. You are actually becoming part of this entire, I would say, episode of deceiving people and then using all this different diplomatic and wishy-washy words. You got to be straight with people. You got to level set. That's what President Biden actually said. So the international foreign policy that we currently have, at least I am glad that President Biden made it clear. On the contrary, and this is where, let's be clear, let's call a spade. Former President Trump, and he is the hopeful of becoming the president of the United States of America again in this upcoming election in November. He, in fact, is on record, and you can go and watch my previous vlog, I would say, and previous discussion on this topic, that he is on record to say that let's finish it up fast, let's do it quickly, and let's just finish this. What do you mean by that? He is actually saying that continue with this genocide, continue to kill more people. And he also said that if he were the president, Iran would not have attacked Israel with this drones. Such a joke. That's one of the recent joke that I've heard. And the reason I'm saying this because Hamas and Iran would call President Trump and say, "Oh, by the way, President Trump, this is what we're going to do." This is a brutal war. And some people have even called me and told me that, Zishan, don't even say war. I mean, war is where there are two sovereign nations and they are fighting with each other. Palestinians, they're not sovereign. And if you keep people under occupation, under subjugation, you think that they will be just like, oh yeah, just keep on killing me, and I'm not just going to say anything, kill all my family, and I'm not going to show resistance. It's beyond imagination, beyond any reasonable human thinking, beyond any reasonable doubt, beyond any human justification. It's mind-boggling. So it's in fact against humanity. And the world has failed. The world has failed in terms of protecting civilians and protecting humans. They are actually humans. So this is where I wanted to make sure that we speak openly and we speak with honesty and we speak with facts and with gathering all the key pieces of information historically, as well as this whole idea of Zionism, that we can do whatever we can under Article 51 of the UN Charter in the right to self-defense. Many people, and let me be clear, Muslim elected officials, let me be very clear again, I'm not naming names yet, but they need to apologize and they need to actually think about it if they really think that at one day, because as especially if someone who's a Muslim elected official, that person should definitely have some type of a belief in terms of afterlife. That how would you sleep at night when you are actually voting in the right to self-defense for Israel, when these bills came on the floor at different state legislatures or in Congress? Good news, at least in Congress, both Congresswomen Rashida Tlaib, she's a Palestinian, and Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, obviously many people hate them. Obviously the Zionist lobby and AIPAC are always going against them and attacking them because they openly share facts and information that they don't want anyone to even listen to or even talk about. That's exactly what former President Trump, he basically said that, oh, when they show these buildings falling and they show those pictures and videos, it should not happen because Israel is losing this PR war. So President Trump, when he was the president, he in fact laid this foundation for this mess that is happening in Israel. And let me tell you how and why I'm saying that, how it happened. Abraham Accords, when Arab nations were arm twisted to recognize Israel without giving any relief to Palestinians and their resistance movements, they said enough is enough. Now we're on our own. We got to do whatever it takes because we have been abandoned even by our own neighbors and Arab world because US pressurized them. And one country in the Middle East, I'll just leave it at that, actually was close to publicly recognize the state of Israel. I think everyone knows whom I'm talking about. And this is one of the reasons that the attack on October 7th occurred. No mainstream media, any media, especially the traditional media, will talk about this because unfortunately we cannot say some things. And that's why Christiana Amanpour and some very brave journalists, they started pressuring their own executives in various media corporations and at various mainstream channels. I'm just giving Krishan Amanpur as one example, because how this whole information and journalism basically was at its lowest point in terms of how they covered the news in Gaza, and they put this entire thing hidden from the public eye. So there is no outcry. But thanks to social media, thanks to Facebook and all the other social media platforms, people have the right to know. And we were able to find this information through social media. And that's why they put a crackdown on social media. They shut down internet. And you can see that in all these different weak democracies and developing countries. The first thing they attack, because they do not want to see people speaking truthfully. And even in Russia, that they jail people for tweeting, or on X platform now, or they literally kill people, or they put them in jail just by putting a post on X platform or on social media. So hats off and kudos to social media platforms, that we live in a very open and transparent world, and that should have been the role of the fourth pillar of the governance, which obviously we call the media. At least in this scenario of Iran attacking Israel, I would like to definitely give credit to traditional media. Because of social media as well, they were under the pressure, so they also had to say this very openly to everyone in America as well, that hey, by the way, Iran is attacking Israel and sending all these drones because this was in retaliation to the attack on April 1st on the Iranian embassy in Syria by Israel, which obviously the Israeli government neither denied or neither confirmed it, but everyone knew, and all intelligence agencies in the world knew, that it was the attack. So the Netanyahu government, they are the ones responsible for all this mess, and they still want to continue and want to push the envelope and want to drag us as Americans. So let me be clear, we are Americans. We are not your slaves. We are not accountable to you. We are not going to be part of a war which you want to push on us, and you want to push on our children, and want to send our children into harm's way. It's your fight. You fight it. And that's where our elected officials, they do not have the spine, and they do not have the courage and bravery to say that and say no to APAC money. And this is where there are a lot of movements that are happening in the entire United States of America, who are actively going after APAC and going after these elected officials who are shamelessly taking APAC money and using the United States might and power, and using these infamous words as the leader of the free world. No, you're not the leader of the free world. If you have the audacity to even speak truthfully, you will never say that you are the leader of the free world. Yeah, we could have said that maybe decades ago, or when we were actually the leader of the free world, or we were trying to. But many US presidents have had done something that would go against humanity. And this is where, if we truly want to be the leader of the free world, we've got to make sure that we hold our elected officials, people whom we have given the power by our vote, that we elected you. And even in that case, in many elections, people don't participate. But I am highly encouraging everyone to vote in big numbers in this November election, and vote for all different races. Because a lot of people would be up for election and re-election, and then there would be some new challengers as well, because this is our country. If we are not going to be actively involved and engaged and speaking these things truthfully, without being diplomat, without being wishy-washy, then we owe it to our children and our grandchildren, because it's high time. Humanity is at stake. We are at the lowest point of humanity, regardless of what we do in our lives. And if we do not speak truthfully, then unfortunately, our lives have already come to an end. That's why one of my favorite quotes of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. has been that our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. And I will end this program today that the ultimate tragedy is not the cruelty and oppression by the bad people, but the silence over that by the good people. So, with that, I hope you will share this with your other friends, and I know you do, and continue to share factual and truthful information. And with that, enjoy rest of the afternoon, and hope everyone is having good weekend. And again, God bless America, and God bless all of you, because we live in one of the greatest countries in the world. And the only way we can keep our democracy, and the only way we can continue to be concerned citizens, and even those who are claiming themselves to be patriotic or nationalist, what have you, which in fact are a topic for some other time, that how sometimes politicians, crook politicians, they use these terms to their advantage as well. And then we know how uh, patriotism and sometimes nationalism are also used to hurt the very definition of patriotism and nationalism, which in fact is a topic for discussion for some other day. But if we are concerned about our country, and if we are really patriotic, and we really think that this is really our country and our homeland, that then we better hold our elected officials accountable and continue to be engaged in civic engagement as well with our political engagement, and play our constructive role in whatever shape or form and capacity that we have positively, because this is where we need to have the political engagement with our elected officials. And when they make all these outlandish statements, even in speeches, what have you, their actions are completely opposite. And that's very important, because you and I, we have all the responsibility, and we are the ones who should be speaking and even making statements. But public officials, elected officials, they need to speak less and show more through their actions, because that's how they need to get the job done. And that's the reason we elect them to begin with. And that's what true democracy is all about. So the resistance, the fight, the movement for peace is incumbent upon all of us. Thank you for listening, and thank you for watching. And we'll meet next time in Zishan on Air and Edited. Have a good afternoon.